No, Austin Evans didn't lie about the PlayStation 5 revision. He could be wrong though. I'm really late discussing this one, and that's because I had no intention of talking about it. Everyone and their pet parrot was talking about it, and I honestly didn't think there was anything that I could add that hadn't already been said. But then I started seeing the Twitter posts and the YouTube videos calling Austin Evans a liar. And that really twisted my melon. Not least because I had a few people try to say I was lying about the Steam Deck in my videos from a couple of weeks ago, despite the fact that they had no evidence to back their spurious claims. And that's the problem here. Austin Evans did a teardown of the new revision of the PlayStation 5, and he found a few things have been changed with the console. The heatsink and the heat pipes inside the machine are considerably smaller. The fan has been changed to a possibly more efficient design, and the machine weighs 300 grams less than the launch model, due in no small part to the smaller heatsink. In fact, I think it's almost entirely down to the new heatsink. Austin Evans also found that the air being exhausted from the machine was between 3 and 5 degrees Celsius hotter than that coming from the launch machine. Evans was pretty balanced in his approach and didn't declare that his findings were definitive. Far from it, he just provided his data and speculated about the reasons for the smaller heatsink and the increased temperatures. He then went on to suggest that if the PlayStation 5 was going to run hotter over a protracted period of time, then that could, in theory, reduce the lifespan of the console or cause throttling of the CPU and GPU, which is never a good thing. None of this is controversial to anybody who has a rudimentary grasp of the way thermals work. But then again, some people aren't at all interested in the way thermals work. All they're looking for is controversy. So much so that their response to a baby smiling at them would be to suggest it had an ulterior motive. Did you see it? It was scheming. Little bastard wants something. Yeah, it needs a cuddle and a nappy change. Looks like you got something in common. Everything that Austin Evans said either is true or could turn out to be true. The new revision of the PlayStation 5 does have a smaller heatsink. It does have a redesigned fan. It is outputting more heat, and that could mean it will throttle or have a shorter lifespan as a result. How's he lying? There are two parts to this though. The facts, smaller heatsink, different fan, more exhaust heat, and Austin Evans' speculation that the PlayStation 5 might have a shorter lifespan or throttle as a result of overheating due to these changes. The facts are just that. Facts. But his speculation, based on those facts, is just that. Speculation. Or do people attacking him not realise what speculation is? The fact is that a 5-degree increase in exhaust heat could very well mean that the PlayStation 5 internals are running hotter, and therefore the chances of thermal throttling and or a shorter lifespan of the console, and even failures in the short to medium term, are perfectly reasonable assumptions. But he could also be wrong. More exhaust heat could mean that, far from being worse, the PlayStation 5 is actually doing a better job of shifting the heat away from the internals. Evans himself says that Sony have had months of data that they could have used to redesign the heatsink and fan assembly, and that could have allowed them to cut costs and still reduce heat. Again, this is perfectly reasonable speculation. The fact is, we will only really know what's going on once Digital Foundry, Gamers Nexus, or some other hardware channel gets into the guts of the machine and puts thermal sensors on the chips. There is one thing we do know though, and that is that the PlayStation 5 was already running close to tolerances in some areas as regards heat. Gamers Nexus already showed that when they looked at the launch PS5. So if the new PlayStation 5 is running hotter internally, then that really isn't good. Add in the fact that the PlayStation 5 will soon have the ability to add an SSD into the internal NVMe slot, and it could mean both the original revision and the new console with the smaller heatsink are heading for trouble, because these drive units run hot. That will depend on how the heat from the NVMe drive gets exhausted from the console, of course, but any build-up of dust will almost certainly add to the problem. And if this new revision is running hotter, then that's only going to make the problem worse. And yeah, much of what I just said is also speculation, and we'll have to wait and see if any of it turns out to be the case. But I am not lying, and neither is Austin Evans. I suspect only those who take to lying easily are quick to accuse others of such behaviour, and that's an important point to take away from all this. People are so quick to throw out the accusation of lying, either because they're too stupid to understand that being wrong isn't the same thing as being dishonest, or because they have a vested interest in feeding off the drama and bullshit. Why else would they co-op and misrepresent the very balanced article on all this by Digital Foundry's Richard Ledbetter? A guy who tries, as far as I can tell, to be as balanced as possible at all times. And yet these people come in and they misrepresent him. It's cheap and, ironically, it's extremely dishonest. But how else is a moron going to generate clicks? And before anyone accuses me of being an Austin Evans groupie, let me just add this. I don't know Austin Evans, and I don't watch his channel all that much. I just hate it when people are too stupid or too dishonest or both to try and engage in a reasonable and balanced conversation. We're all wrong from time to time, and Austin Evans may be wrong here. But being wrong isn't the same as being a liar. Honest people understand that.